All right, welcome back to another episode of Wick Mick. If you don't know what the hell Wick Mick means, it's WCMC. It basically just means Woke Centrist Media Club. Hooray! All right, and we got Andrew, aka Magic Hammer Mindgasms.
Hmm.
That's probably a reference to Jace's Magic Hammer, Hex Tech Hammer.
Yep.
And you got myself, the woke centrist, aka Oh the Misery Centrist. Do you know what that is a reference to, Andrew?
I don't remember specifically now.
It's the theme song to Arcane.
Oh, I forgot that's what it was called.
That's not the name of the song is Enemy, but it is like one of the lyrics in the song. Oh, the
True.
misery.
Yeah, that's part of the chorus, I think, right?
Everybody's gonna be my enemy.
Yeah, it's a good song.
Um, it's catchy as hell. So, just one story about Arcane. In my personal experience about this show. I didn't know it had been super popular when it released at all. The only reason I've actually led myself to this show was that the goddamn theme song is so catchy that I went and watched the music video, and the music video like showcased this animation. I was like, hmm, I think there's more to this animation than just the music video. So I went and looked it up, and oh yeah, it's the theme song to a show. So I went and watched the first episode, and I got hooked. The show is based off of a video game called League of Legends, and I don't think you've played League of Legends, right, Andrew?
Right, no, I haven't. Had you played it
Yeah.
before?
I've played a little bit of it, and it's a multiplayer game um, where I think you go in teams of two or three, and you just fight against another team of two or three. And it is a type of game type that was made popular with a game called Dota. Well, that's the acronym, Dota. I think it's like dark. Um, I don't know, but it was called Dota. But
I've heard of that.
you've heard of Dota?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dota was super popular, and then League of Legends is basically Dota with its own universe. And I believe Dota is based off of it's a mod for Warcraft or something like that. It's
Oh,
not even
okay.
like a fully released game, it was like a mod. And then League of Legends is just a full game on its own with its own lore. The games itself, when you play them, there's basically no story. You just pick your character and you go and fight. There were no cutscenes that I remembered. Um, Nothing. Only thing I remember is you pick a character and you go out and you fight the other people. That's all I remember. Um, but this show has almost no resemblance at all to the game, um, at all, aside from some of the characters from the game are in this show. I actually don't recognize any of the characters because the ones that I used to use are not in the show, and
Okay.
there's like a lot of characters in this game. So I don't know if they're gonna bring out some of these other ones, but we'll see for season two.
Do you think
Um,
that I was just thinking in terms of adaptations in general, we've talked a lot about the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, and House of the Dragon, and Wheel of Time adaptations, of course. And do you think it was like easier for them to succeed with the story with Arcane because there was basically no source material in terms of the story?
Probably like There's probably some type of lore that you can access, but the game itself doesn't present this stuff to you. I'm guessing each character has some type of bio or biography. Best guess is they use that information from these characters and tried to craft some story about their origins and whatnot. Because I know some of the characters in the game that are in the show, like most of the main characters. So we're talking about Vi and Powder and Jace and Humdinger or whatever that little creature dude is. The guy with the bum leg, like the mad scientist guy who helped the guy with the bum leg. Um,
That guy's
I
an
know,
interesting character because he gets addicted to the hex tech.
yes. And I know the cop chick is also a character as well. And the hoverboard kid, he is also a character in the game.
Okay. So
So,
in the game, the only aspects that are the only aspects from the game that are in the movie are that there are those characters and you use hex tech and like battle other characters.
right. So the gameplay style is very close to a point and click real time strategy game where your character roams around a field that consists of 2 or 3 lanes. And each end of the lane spawns allies, like these non playable characters that rush the other side's base. So all you do really is you foster and escort these characters into the other player's base so that they can destroy the nodes that are in their base.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Yeah, that makes sense since you said that League of Legends is kind of based on Dota, which is mod for Warcraft. So yeah, it would make sense that it would be the same type of strategy game as that.
Yeah, the only difference between, real-time strategies that are like Warcraft or StarCraft and these Dota or League of Legends types games is that you only get to control the champion character. So any of the smaller units that are automatically spawned at your base that rush and attack the other base, you have no direct control over those units. You at best can help to protect them or to escort them, but you cannot control them yourself. You only have control of the one character that you select before the match.
Oh, okay.
So all your focus and attention is going to be on that one character.
Yeah,
So
they did a really good job with the characters, the relationships between them, and the plot and how they incorporate all that into the hex tech. And like you put in the title, it's a fantasy show, which is really cool because it's kind of anime, but its own unique kind of CG type of animation. So maybe not exactly an anime, but yeah, it's a really good story and really good characters, and they did a really good job of making like basically creating the whole backstory of the game, kind of, right?
right, like I said, I'm not well versed on League of Legends lore because it was pretty much inaccessible as a casual player. I'm guessing in order to get really into that lore, you'd have to really dig into the game and characters and whatever extra materials you could find that maybe were published by Riot Games, which is the publisher of League of Legends. But in the game itself, you don't even have access to all the characters up front, so it's not like you can just go and find all these characters and read their bios and everything. You could, but there's no story in itself presented in the gameplay. So it's something you really would have to spend time in doing that's not really part of playing the game.
Okay.
So one of the things I did want to note about this show is I found the animation to be quite high level. It's doesn't look much like anything that you typically see in the CG space. Like I'll say there are some CG animated shows that are more geared to YA or older viewers. I think some. So I would say in a comparison, I'd probably use the Star Wars animated shows, like the CG shows, that kind of have a darker tone to them. However, the I think the art design in Arcane is a much higher level. Um, the characters look top notch. The art design is great. It has like this gritty feel, and none of the characters look super cartoonish. Like I know there are some, they have more realistic proportions rather than having, cartoony proportions where like you have a big guy with a huge torso and small legs. Like you don't see anything like that. Most of the characters have are normally proportioned like
Or
real people. I
women
wouldn't say
women with
y-
like tiny waists and tiny shoulders, but like massive tits and a massive ass.
yeah, they go a bit more with more realism in the body styles. It's stylistically closer to what you would see in real life.
Yeah.
There are a couple, I guess, exceptions, but those exceptions are when these people are ramped up on drugs and they get all like weird and deformed and crazy.
Yeah,
Um,
that's interesting. That aspect of it, it reminded me of the spice in the Dune series that we've been talking about.
right? It's like a drug, but it's a drug, but it seems like depending on how it's administered, it can give the person superpowers.
Exactly. And we
Uh,
talked about a few examples too of people who have lost limbs who grow them back with the hex tech.
right. So, I guess we'll just give a plot synopsis. So, the show focuses mainly on two characters who are named Vi and Powder. Vi is the older sister. She's kind of like the tough one, the one that's good in the fight, good brawler, the leader type character. And then you have Powder, who's not so great in, confrontations. She has a good head on her, meaning she's pretty smart. She builds gadgets and things like that. But she is pretty timid, and when it comes to any type of confrontations or anything, she kind of shudders in the corner, waiting for everything to be over. Anyway, in the very beginning of the show, we kind of get like a little prologue of it appears that their parents get killed, and then well, what's the name of the character? The father figure character kind of finds them and fosters them.
Oh, I'm forgetting his name right now too.
Vander?
Yeah, I think it is Vander. Look up Vi and Powder's father.
Yeah,
Wait,
I think
not
his name is
father.
Vander. It's kind of like their
Father.
guardian.
Father figure.
Yeah, he's like their guardian.
Yeah, it
So
is Vander. Yeah.
we see him rescue them when they are very little. And then the next thing we see them a little bit older, and Vi is kind of this leader of this thief crew, which consists of her, Powder, um, the lockpick dude, I forget his name,
Yeah, me
and
too.
like the muscle guy who's like this really thick dude with the glasses on, with these goggles. And
Yeah.
they're like parkouring, and they find this place.
And before that though, we see at the before the time jump, we see at the end of one episode that Powder chooses I forget that character's name, but like the bad guy instead of going with Vi.
Yeah, that's at the end of episode 3.
Yeah. You're right. I agree with you about that, by the way. You were saying to Tristram that episode 3 is your favorite. That one's my favorite too. That one was awesome.
Yeah, episode 3 is amazing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, these characters, they're in a thieving crew. They go on a thieving excursion into the town of Piltover. Piltover is considered and called the city of progress. And they find Jace's secret lab and they steal something from him. But in the process, building blows up. It causes havoc all over the city, and you have these I don't know what they call them, but people from the Undercity, they just kind of like think of them as second class citizens. And I think they're called enforcers, kind of like the cops of this world, go looking for them, and they got to lay low for quite a while. Um, and then eventually it comes to a head where um, Vander, he gives himself up and he gets captured. And I think his name is Silco, the guy with one eye.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, Silco has him held at a factory, and I think Silco is about to kill him or something like that. Because Silco and Vander, to some level, like are in league with some dirty cops from Piltover.
Right.
So things go bad.
Sorry, I just
Um,
gotta pee. I'll be like 30 seconds. You keep
no
talking.
problem. I'll keep the synopsis going. So things go bad, right? Shit goes down. Um, and we have Vander. He is captured. Vi is captured. The thick dude with the goggles is captured, and the lockpicking dude is captured. So they all went and they left Powder behind because Powder, she was tasked with holding on to the loot that they had. And after being chased, she threw the loot in the water. And they couldn't really trust her going on jobs anymore because, in most instances, they blame the failure of the job on her for tossing the loot into the water. Anyway, she feels really, really guilty about being somewhat useless in their thieving party dynamic. And then she takes it upon herself um, to mount a rescue mission and to help out. So back in the factory, we have Silco and one of the ruffians that had gotten to confrontation with Vi and her crew. And he now works for Silco. And we first get to see um, Silco's drug being unleashed into this guy's body, and it kind of creates this superhuman freak of nature that's ultra strong and ultra fast. So he gets unleashed and he gets tasked to kill um, Vander. Vi and crew show up. Well, Vi and crew are captured because they show up, but they got caught in a trap. So um, Vi makes it out, but they're able to blockade and they're trying to get out of this room before they're killed by the monstrosity. And unfortunately, Powder thinks it's a good idea to toss some explosive down there that she created out of the items that she stole. It creates a huge blast, killing the thick dude with the glasses and the lockpicking guy. Kills both of them. Vander is half dead. Vi is pretty injured as well.
Hey, do you want to at some point do you want to talk about hex tech a little bit in general? Because I think that's a really fascinating aspect of the series because it's a combination, like it's using magic to or using technology to harness and control and stabilize magic.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. let me just boil down the synopsis a little bit more. So they get screwed up. The explosion happens. Vi gets away, but before she gets away, she berates Powder for being a useless person. Well, Powder killed two of their comrades, so of course Vi's mad. And then um, Silco sees her on the ground, and now he becomes the father figure. We jump years ahead. Vi gets busted out of prison by a cop, and they go down and investigate the underworld looking for the missing hex tech. So there's a big adventure there. We find out that Outer is now known as Jinx, and she is a psycho killer. And this whole time, Vi, knowing that Jinx is still alive, it's her main quest to get her back. So at the end of it, we have Vi and her friend, I think Caitlin. Ultimately, they do find Jinx. They fight a few times. There's a few times where they get into fights, um, where the hex tech passes back and forth between the two. Eventually, um, Jinx does hold on to the hex tech enough to create a weapon with it, and she kind of tricks Vi and Caitlin and what's his name, Silco into a room, and she kind of has like this psychotic break where she cannot tell who's her friend or who's her foe. And eventually, at the end of it, she does not decide to kill Vi. She actually goes and kills Silco.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all the while, Silco is like, we can talk about the characters individually. I just wanted to kind of break down
Mm-hmm.
like the story. So ultimately, at the
Doing
end,
your
there's a huge
Ken
cliffhanger.
style legendarium synopsis.
Trying, not as entertaining, but trying. So at the end of it, we end on a gigantic ass cliffhanger, like the biggest cliffhanger you could even know. So Jinx shoots some type of hex tech missile at like the council, and before it cuts out, we see this missile entering like the council room window with all the counselors. So that's where they leave the series. I
Yeah,
think Jace is probably going to survive. I think he's too important of a
yeah.
character
That was
to
a
die because
really cool sudden twist ending though, because I thought the way they were going to end it was that, you know, they basically solve this aspect of the story but still do a season two. But then there was that sudden massive twist, which was yeah, like you said, a really good cliffhanger ending.
right. So I think since we go through that, did you want to talk about like the importance of Hex Tech in the plot of this story?
Yeah, for sure. It's really fascinating because I think that's probably the main aspect of it that makes it a fantasy series, like you were talking about, and like Tristram was saying too, because that's basically the magic system of the series, and it's like, and it's interesting too because it's the combination of science and magic, like we were talking about, which means that's interesting because it kind of makes it a hard magic system in a way, but it could also be debatably a soft magic system. I don't know. What do you think about it?
Well, we do see magic performed a couple times in the series. Um, but what Hextech is, it's an attempt to technologically harness magic without having the ability to perform it. It seems there were some individuals who could just perform magic. In this age, we see glimpses of people that can. There was one magical person who created a portal that saved some characters from death. but we do know there are magic users in the world. It's just so scant that we've only seen like one or two on screen and for a
Hmm.
very short time, and they don't really explain. We don't even know who these characters are. They're like shrouded in secrecy, and they're not even referenced at all. Um, but what is happening here is it seems like in the lore they kind of established that magic is like extremely dangerous and that even toying with trying to harness it technologically is extremely dangerous.
Yeah, that's
Because
interesting too. That's also one of the many classic sci-fi tropes, and it's a trope because it works really well, right? That's one of the, well, one of the first science fiction stories, if not arguably the first. Frankenstein is all about that, and then there's so many other science fiction stories that center around that theme too, about how dangerous technology can be.
right. So it seems like in this world they've harnessed hex tech in a couple of different ways. One seems to be some type of energy source that they use to power their technology. Another way that they use it is for creating like it looks like portals, like transportation portals. Um, but the hex tech, they don't even really fully understand what they're doing with it. They're just kind of on the cusp of understanding how to harness the hex tech. Because I know the current version of hex tech that they have in the show is not like the ultimate potential version. Because I know they're trying to find like a more pure version of hex tech. Um, the crippled scientist is kind of key in following that avenue. But the hex tech, as far as like fantasy goes, it's fantasy because there's magic in it.
Right.
But the show doesn't rely on the arcane, so to speak, too much. It's kind of like a fantasy steampunk
Yeah.
type of genre. Kind of mashes those two genres up.
Yeah.
Um, and it does. We do have like races of some of the characters do have these different racial characteristics, like Heimlinger, I think that's his name. I'm
Yeah.
not sure like how to say his name
I
exactly.
think it's Heimerdinger, maybe.
Heimerdinger. He has a weird name, but he's like this little creature, and then there's
He
some
kind
a
of
couple
reminds me
other.
of that that little guy in one of the first few episodes of The Mandalorian. You know who I'm talking about?
I think so. I think the guy that kind of
He says I have spoken a lot.
yeah, I know who you're talking about. He's like in the second and third episodes, I think, of The Mandalorian. Um,
Yeah, I thought he looked kind of similar to him.
yeah, Heimerdinger or whatever his name is, he does look he has some type of furry appearance. He does appear to have fur. He looks kind of like a little Ewok type of dude. I know it's hard to explain,
Yeah,
but he is long lived. He's supposedly like hundreds of years old. So he's supposed to be like the voice of wisdom on the council. And we do see that there is like one type of I don't know what you want to call it, but there's another race on the council. We don't really get to see what they truly look like because he seems to be completely covered in armor. Um, and then in the underworld, there's another race that we see um, that is part of man, what's his name? The kid on the hoverboard. Like he has his own crew.
oh, I
There's a
forget.
couple. Yeah, there's a couple like characters that are clearly not human
Yeah.
in his crew as well. So it does look like there are some fantastical raced creatures in this series as well. It's not just humans. There are other creatures and things like that. Um,
Is it
so
Echo? The kid on the hoverboard?
Yeah, Echo's the hoverboard
Yeah.
kid.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, there are some fantastical elements in the series, but they also have these sci-fi elements that revolve around the technology created with the magic, which is pretty interesting as well. You know, we get to see the progress of this hex tech, and I think at the end of it, they basically hex tech is almost like a nuclear technology. But
Do
that's
you
what
think do you think that like all of these details make it, like you said, more of a steampunk fantasy show, or is it arguably a sci-fi fantasy show, or which one do you think it's closer to, or do you think it's like a combination of all three?
it's a combination. It's like hard to say because we see that technologically they're still using like airships and stuff. However, you have got a kid with like a hoverboard. So it seems like they're on the dawn of like this technological boom where we get to see a lot of the technology like happen. But in the same vein, they also have like older technology where they're still using airships and stuff like this. And as far as the city goes, we don't see like a bunch of vehicles that are in the roads and stuff like that. So
Yeah, true.
it's kind of like this extremely rapid advancement of technology, but they skipped like a bunch of steps. Like they went from what airships to portals. You don't see cars. Like the kids are running on rooftops and the cops are running through the streets. There's no the cops don't. I think later in the show we do see the cops have a couple vehicles, but they don't seem to be common. That they're pretty much a rarity.
Yeah,
Um, and they're using, and then we do see like later on they get some pretty advanced weaponry. I know Jinx. She seems to be the only person with a machine gun. Everybody else has like rifles and like single shot weapons.
yeah, she's got like a minigun basically.
Yeah, she has like this huge like minigun, and everybody else has like regular rifles and stuff. Like even the girl that Caitlin, who accompanies Vi, she has just like a bolt action rifle that she carries around.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, hex tech is pretty important. It's kind of like the MacGuffin that everyone struggles over. It's the MacGuffin that the what they call it, because I know the Undercity eventually Silco, who has some very noble intentions regarding the Undercity. He is one of those guys by any means necessary. His intention is noble, but the way he is trying to achieve it is not very good. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
because the Piltover has Hex Tech and the Undercity has Shimmer. And it seems to be that Shimmer is this addictive drug, but it also turns people into super soldiers.
Yeah, that's a really interesting aspect because it basically it focuses on the lower class of society in the Undercity, and it's drug addiction that gives them superpowers, which is it's like two different opposite meanings juxtaposed on each other.
Right. So even when it comes to the two forces that are against each other, and we're talking about the Piltover Council and Silco and his ilk, they come to understand that if they were to actually fight each other, it'd be a very bloody civil war. It's not like, oh, we have all this hex tech and we're gonna mop everybody up really easily. It wouldn't be that easy because he has an endless army of people that he can inject with this stuff and turn into a super soldier. It wouldn't be that really that easy. And it's not like it doesn't seem like this hex tech stuff is mass produced either. So they have a lot of it, but it's not super prevalent. It's it seems like only the elite few, like even just the regular enforcers, the people who are kind of like the military slash police force, they don't even really have access to the hex tech weapons.
Yeah.
There's only two people that we see using hex tech weapons from Piltover are Jace and his super like magic hammer that shoots like it shoots like energy out of it,
Yeah, pretty awesome. It's my favorite thing in the series. That's why I called
and
myself
the
Magic Hammer Mindgasms.
and then we have the Atlas gauntlets, which are super powerful Hulk smash hands that
Yep.
if you punch something with it, you basically fuck it up like really bad.
And that's
Um,
how Vi is able to fight that giant mutant guy super powered with Shimmer in episode 3.
right. Well, she doesn't get the gauntlets until later, but in episode 3,
Oh, right.
she
I forgot
uses
about that.
yeah, she uses Vander's like old battle gauntlets.
Oh, okay.
It's just that Vi is such a good fighter. She's able to hold her own even without the Atlas gauntlets. Like she is
Hmm.
an excellent pugilist.
Yeah.
Um, she's basically like a heavyweight boxer level, like hand to hand fighter. And she only punches. You don't see her doing kicks. She's just like boxing people,
Yep.
you know, ducking and weaving and boxing. So we do see that there's kind of like this brewing war, and even within their own, they're having their own problems as well. You know, like Silco's having a hard time on reining in on his people. And I know there's a point in time where he has like this meeting, and he like brings up the poison gas from the underworld that everybody breathes in, and he sees that all of his like lieutenants are so soft that they can no longer handle like the fumes from the Undercity anymore.
Right. Yeah,
And as far
that's
as
when that's a really ruthless scene because he lets all of them almost suffocate just to show his
right,
power over them.
well, he's trying to show them that they are well, they've kind of lost touch with their roots.
Yeah.
Because he's saying, look, I can still breathe this shit. I'm walking in here. We got to remember why we hate Piltover. I guess what they're trying to allude to is that Piltover must be the ones that are polluting the Undercity, or but he really wants to gain independence from them, and that's kind of like his entire plot line is to become an independent nation, um, which is, like I said, it's a noble goal, but he does it through nefarious means,
Mm.
like
He's
having
kind
children work in drug factories,
Yeah,
stuff like that.
it's always good when there's a villain with good intentions. It makes the villain more interesting.
Well, the weird thing, by the end of the when I got to the end of the series, I didn't hate him.
I think that
Like,
actually that tell me what you think about this, but it seemed to me that he kind of softened a little bit toward the end of the series, and he had love at least for uh Jinx, aka Powder.
I think towards the end of the series, they try to make him out like he's not this ruthless asshole that, we all think he is.
Yeah,
We do see that he makes some decisions that a ruthless asshole wouldn't make because he's trying to protect Powder.
yeah,
But he doesn't want her to become Powder again. He wants Jinx because he's also he is kind of morally gray because I know he needs Jinx. He doesn't need Powder. He needs Jinx in order for his operation to move forward. And I don't think him wanting her to be Jinx is in her best interest, like her
Yeah,
personal best
definitely.
interest. So he's still
Yeah.
kind of a selfish asshole. So, but I still think that he kind of does care for her,
Yeah, I agree.
and he trusts her. Like none of his crew trusts her at all. They all want her dead. They all want to kill her. They all want to get rid of her, and he's the only one keeping her around because um, he's kind of raised her into what she is by the end of the show.
Yeah.
But I was kind of disappointed that Pilko dies. I thought he was a good like antagonist, um, an interesting antagonist that was addicted to some type of drug that I had injected into his. I don't even know what's going on with his eyeball. That too. It's like, why is his eyeball glowing?
I didn't
Like,
really get that either. I thought it seemed to me like maybe it was supposed to be some sort of permanent effect of long-term heavy use of
drug use.
I forget the name of that drug. Shimmer, was it?
Right.
Yeah. It
Shimmer.
seemed to me
Yeah,
like
yeah.
maybe it was supposed to be something to do with that, but they didn't really make that clear.
Yeah, and also he had some type of relationship with Vander that was brotherly that became something else.
Hmm.
And it almost seems like Vander would have been in with Silco, but Vander, after rescuing the children, kind of it's almost like he was in a gang and he left the gang to like go straight.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Um, but yeah, the character development in the show is pretty amazing, especially
Yeah,
the development
definitely.
of the main two, the sisters, Vi and Jinx. I thought they did a really good job with Silco. Jace is okay. Um, I guess he's kind of like the outsider who gets into politics. And then we have the crippled scientist who has an interesting story. He's from the underworld and he made it to Piltover, so he's kind of in both worlds. And then he, I don't know, I would say he gets addicted to science.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, but his motive is he doesn't want to die, so that's why he's trying to advance the science. He's trying to advance it so that he can cure his condition.
Hmm.
And then it's failing, like he's not able to, so he goes to this street doctor who was his former mentor, and he shoots him up with Shimmer, and his body starts turning into, I don't know what you want to call it.
Some
It
like
looks like a hex tech body or something. It's
it's like Akira Hex Tech arm.
yeah, and hex he gets a hex tech leg as well.
Yeah.
And he killed like a potential girlfriend doing an experiment.
Yep.
She turned into dust or something like that.
Yeah.
And he was trying to help her.
Hmm. Yeah. Like we said, he gets addicted to Hex Tech and
Hmm.
to Shimmer and really fucks him up, even though it also gives
Hmm.
him superpowers, like we were talking about.
Yes. And also Jace's love interest, like her mom comes to town and she has like male prostitutes like following her around everywhere.
Yeah.
She's like this super bulky, scarred up lady who's implied to be like a powerful fighter.
Yep. Oh, I
And
meant to ask you too. Did you notice the character who was obviously voiced by Avasarala?
Oh yeah, she was one of the corrupt cops from the beginning.
Yeah, I thought,
I think
oh
they tried to
wow,
make her kind of look like her too. It's I was
I
like, oh
thought,
yeah, that's
wow, that's
Avasarala's voice.
obviously Avasarala.
No, her voice is like the most unique voice. Like as soon as you hear it, it's like, oh, I know who that is.
Hmm.
There's no question who that could be. It's like I know she doesn't smoke, but it sounds like she smokes like 10 packs a day.
If you look up cougar in the dictionary, there is a description saying this is how her voice sounds, and she looks at you while smoking a cigarette.
um, but yeah, she does a lot of voiceover work for various video games and shows. Like I know she does. She's in Mass Effect. Um, but you hear her voice out there in various shows. That's one that I enjoy. Um, but yeah, she was one of the two corrupt cops. I don't know. They do talk about corrupt cops because there's that Asian cop who's like corrupt and works for Silco, right? Um, so we got corrupt cops, council. Yeah, the council, they have an interesting debacle where they kick out Humdinger off the council. I can't. I know
And
we
that's
keep
a
saying Humdinger. I think Humdinger is
I
the
think
mayor
it's
from Paw Patrol.
I think it's Heimerdinger, but it doesn't really matter. And
Yeah, he
it's
get
interesting too in terms of the council how how much Jace works with I forget her name is, but that character whose
Black
mother comes to town.
Amidala.
Yeah, yeah,
I call her Black Amidala.
yeah, exactly. That's a good description.
um, yeah, and they hook up. He hooks up with Black Amidala,
Yep.
but it seems more of like a convenience thing. I don't know if she's actually that into him. Sounds like she. It seems like she did it more for political reasons.
Yeah, I think so too. I
And
mean,
I got
it's
confused in the beginning because I thought Jace was with that other chick, Caitlyn, but I guess maybe they were just friends.
I think it seemed that
Because
way to me.
Caitlyn ends up being a lesbian.
Is that the one who was the cop?
Yeah, she's the cop girl.
Oh, okay. I didn't even remember that. I just remember her like really hardcore crushing on Vi a lot.
I have to watch the first three episodes again, but I could have sworn that Caitlyn and Jace were a thing in the beginning of the series, or at least they tried to imply that they were a thing.
Okay.
I don't know. I thought they were more than friends, but I could be mistaken. But yes, the main character Vi is a lesbian,
Pretty
which
badass
makes
one
sense.
too, especially
Oh
when she
yeah,
gets those gauntlets.
yeah, the Atlas gauntlets.
Yeah.
One of my favorite fights is when she fights the Silco's top bodyguard.
Yeah, mine too.
They just go after each other like back and forth. Um, but I would say as far as like the emotional climax of the show, I think that was in episode 3, where we
Yeah, I think
have
so too.
Vander, the father figure, sacrificing himself to save Vi and Powder. And then
Yeah.
you got that twist ending. It's like so many things happen. Like Powder accidentally kills two of her buddies, and then they have a falling out, and then Vander gets killed. It's like wow, so much stuff just like climaxed right there. And that's when I was like truly hooked on the show. I was like, man,
Me
this
too,
is
man.
this is a crazy show.
Hmm.
So I'm not saying like the rest of the episodes were meh. There's they don't hit the emotions as hard as that third episode. There's nothing like a father sacrificing themselves for their kids. I guess it's kind of a mini moment like that for Silco, because he does make some decisions that, because I think there was one decision that Jace wanted, the council said in order for them to come to this treaty, they had to deliver Jinx as a sacrificial lamb, basically.
Right, right.
And then he has a change of heart and then, well, he never really decides to do that. But he can see that there's kind of this internal conflict within him. You know, do I want the free nation of Zon at the expense of Jinx? He's like, it becomes an internal monologue within himself. But at the end, I don't know if it was for his own convenience to stay alive, but he convinces Jinx that, well, he doesn't convince her, but he says that, hey, you know, they wanted me to turn you in and I didn't do that. And he had ample opportunity to do that and he didn't. So I can say that maybe that's true.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
But he gets shot. Um,
And he gets
Jinx
shot
seems to shoot
for
a lot
that
of people by
sacrifice
accident.
too, right?
Right, he does get shot. So it's almost like, what's going to happen next? And I think they were going to finalize everything. And at the end, when the council was voting to approve the treaty, you know, Silco's dream was about to come through. And then a missile goes through the windows.
Yeah, and sent
Like all
by
that hard work, all the hard work that he had been working on the entire show was just going up in flames.
all of it undone uh by Jinx.
Yeah, and by this point, by the end, we see that Jinx is basically the point of no return. There's no redemption for that character. I know Vi really wanted Powder back, but I don't think that's possible now.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Yeah, there's no way she could overcome like the trauma that she's endured. She's obviously somewhat psychopathic.
Hmm.
You
You
know,
see
she's
how she has delusions about reality too, like when she gets high enough on Shimmer.
yeah, that's right too. She almost died, and in order to save her life, Silco takes her to like the street doctor, and he shoots her up with a bunch of shimmer in order to save her life.
Hmm.
So she's going to be reliant on that to survive. So I'm really excited to see how season 2 is going to play out.
Yeah, me too.
And I don't even know when season 2 is coming.
When did season 1 come out?
Last year I believe.
Okay.
Um,
Sometimes it
or
takes a
maybe even before
few.
that.
Oh,
It
okay.
came out. You know what? Actually, I think it came out around the time that Wheel of Time came out.
Did it?
Probably before. I think before Wheel of Time came out.
I'm gonna
So
look
that's
it up
almost
here.
like 2 years ago.
No, you were right the first time, 2021.
Yeah. So I think it was around. Yeah. So it's not 2 years technically, but almost 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting that it's 2023.
Yeah. I think it'd be 2 years coming like August, September-ish. Um, but it's been out for a while, and I am surprised I didn't catch notice of this show earlier.
I think that I had seen that Daniel Green made a video about it, but I hadn't heard of it before, so I didn't even watch the video. But I think he had talked about it on another of his videos and said that it was an anime or an animated show that is based on a video game and has some sort of magic and technology. And I thought, that sounds interesting. I'll add it to my list, which means that I will eventually watch it at some point. But so you suggesting that we chat about it made me watch it sooner.
Yeah, because I was just blown away, and I was like, this is something Andrew would like. It's not one of my weird anime shows that are that are kind of quirky and
Like Attack on
I
Titan.
yeah, yeah, I know
I
Attack
do
on
like
Titan
most
is.
I do like most anime stuff that I've seen, but some of it has a tendency to get enormously cheesy.
Well, Attack on Titan is just what you call melodramatic. Melodrama is kind of a style that you do see in anime.
Yeah.
Attack on Titan does fall into that, especially like the first ish season.
It's just funny the like when they go to, okay, I am feeling emotions. Look at me shaking and sweating uncontrollably.
Yeah, I get it, but if we're talking about like the main characters, they were like naive kids back then. Like they start
Yeah.
getting like throughout the series they harden,
Hmm.
and you don't see them cry like that anymore. It's just like in the beginning, when they're kids and they're not like combat veterans yet. They're a bit like melodramatic with their emotions. Like those kids that you see in the beginning of the show, they become like hardcore ass combat veterans.
Cool. They should have gotten
They
to that point sooner.
well, I think the whole first season is kind of like developing. Like by the end of the first season, um, because I know in the first few episodes, there's a point where they're watching the scout team come back through the city gates, and they're like in awe, like, oh, those are the guys that go out and they go fight the Titans. By the end of the first season, they're the ones walking through that front gate that have seen like the horrors of war. So they
Okay.
kind of
Well,
switch
that's cool.
spots there. Yeah, they switch spots there. So yeah, it's pretty melodramatic because they're like naive, naive ass kids in the beginning. But once they see like actual combat and the horrors of war, you don't see that much melodrama anymore coming out of
Good.
these characters.
That's good.
But yeah, that's kind of like a hurdle that some people can't get over. Those like the yeah, I know what you mean, like the ridiculous amount of tears that come out of their eyes that's like inhumanly
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
That's kind of like an anime trope that
Yeah.
happens quite a bit in different animes.
But good
Or
animes don't use that, or at least don't overuse that.
right, it's something that you'll see a lot in anime that's targeted towards like younger teens. I don't know
Yeah.
if you could say this is younger teens. You see people get ripped to shreds and eaten by by giants.
Yeah.
I guess they have different standards in Japan where they allow kids to watch that type of stuff versus here in the States where parents would be appalled at if they showed that on network TV.
Yeah.
Because this
Yeah.
was a network television show that they would show, that would be on network TV, as
No.
opposed to here, you wouldn't see that um, at all on
Yeah.
network TV.
I don't even mind that kind of cheesiness that they go to sometimes on Dragon Ball Z, but and it's nowhere near as, violent or anything like that as Attack on Titan either though.
I think Dragon Ball Z is more cartoony and absurdist.
Yeah.
Like there you'll encounter corny jokes and stuff like that. There's not really any jokes in Attack on Titan. Like as far as it's pretty serious. There's not a whole lot of joking going on.
Uh-huh.
I think that's probably I think it's probably a tone clash maybe that you're sensing with
Yeah.
Attack on Titan, where you have like these really whiny, super emotional characters, but they're the children at least when they're kids. Um, and then I don't know. I guess sometimes really whiny kids can be off-putting.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm thinking you're probably thinking about like the main character who is like this, I don't know, like a headstrong, stubborn, thinks he could do anything type of kid until like the Titans show up.
Hmm.
Um, and then he gets saved by the coward guy. He's trying to be more practical, and their mom, he gets to see his mom get eaten by a giant. Um, I don't know how far you went through. I know the wall gets fucked up, and then all the giants come in and start
I
eating people.
watched, I think I watched the first 3 episodes.
Yeah, and we see that there's a couple different giants that exhibit some type of human intelligence, and that there's others who just kind of seem like giant zombies. But yeah, these are all like mysteries like getting covered through the show on why the world is the way it is. I think that the most interesting thing that I found about the show is like the world building of the show. It's like how do you get to a point where you're just surviving against hordes of giant humans that just want to eat everybody?
Hmm.
And you do get it, they do actually explain that as you get through the show. You get to know why the world is the way it is. And I thought all those little revelations I found make the show interesting. I think the most thing that I found compelling is the world building of it. And I thought
That's
the
cool.
idea of the show was pretty interesting. Because this is not something I've seen before. I know you can say, oh, it's a zombie type of situation, but once you get into the lore, it's like, there's something weird and unique going on here,
The mon
you know?
the giants are zombies?
Well, I'm saying like I'm not saying that they're zombies. I'm saying that they exhibit zombie-like behavior.
Oh, okay.
Like they don't seem that intelligent. The only thing they seem interested in is eating people. Well, at least some of them. Doesn't seem like all of them are, but some of them certainly are. But you get to find out like why they are like that, and it just becomes a way more interesting show later on. But until it becomes like more of like a military based show than like a survival based show.
Yeah, that sounds better.
Yeah. But yeah, it's because I was looking at reviews of it and people, it's actually an extremely popular show, but it's also very polarizing, especially for people who are not um, acclimated to like the extreme emotions
Right.
displayed by some of these characters. Um, but I get it. I get it how it could be cheesy. Like seeing someone cry like a gallon of tears just seems kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, as far as the show goes, um, I think the content is pretty high level.
Yeah.
It's not a goofy show. The tone is pretty dark, but also, you know, since the focus seems to be mostly on Vi and Powder, it's like these two kids who basically grew up in the ghetto, and they have all of these forces um, that they're caught up in. That's not really what they wanted for themselves. Because I know when Vi
Yeah.
comes back in the mix, she's like she gets broken out of prison, And the only reason she gets broken out of the prison is because Caitlin is trying to track down Silco,
Yeah,
and Vi knows Silco and his operations.
and like Caitlyn changes a lot because she sees the way the Undercity is through her going around with Violet or Vi, right?
Right. So I think Violet is her full name,
Oh, okay.
but she just goes by Vi. But yeah, she goes and she actually sees the people because she gets to see like the people who are drug addicted and
Mm-hmm.
how dire straits that they're in and how crappy it is to live under there and how oppressive the enforcers are when they go through the Undercity. So yeah, she begins to sympathize with those who live down there because you got to remember Caitlin is from the upper crust of society. Her mother is a counselor. She basically lives in a mansion. So it's kind of like the same thing that Humdinger does. He kind of goes down and tries to see what people down in the Undercity are living like, and he tries to be helpful.
Yeah,
So yeah, they come to recognize that hey, the place that they live in this ivory tower isn't doing good for everybody. There's some segment of society that they're definitely harming. And she tries to present that information to the council, but it goes on deaf ears.
yeah.
But yeah. So as far as like the characters, who were your favorite? Who were your favorite characters that you enjoyed on screen?
Mm, I think like you were basically the main characters that you were mentioning earlier and that we've been talking about the most, Vi and Powder slash Jinx. I think they're probably the most interesting characters to me.
Yeah, Vi and Powder. I really liked Vander until he died. So I was like really disappointed that he died.
Yeah,
Um,
he was really cool.
I was like, oh yeah, this is like the cool dude that runs everything in the most legit way that he can, as in opposition to Silco. I was like pretty sad that he died. I was like, oh man, he was like one of the cool characters. Um, and then like there are characters I didn't really care that much about. I think one of them is Black Amidala.
Yeah, I think so.
She got like a lot of screen time, and she had like some beef with her mom. I thought that was kind of weird. Her mom is weird. So, um, she just seems like manipulative to me. She's not like a good character.
Yeah, I think you're probably
Um,
right.
I think Heimdinger is probably a good character. He's like the guy that says no to everything.
Hmm.
He's like, no, you guys, magic is dangerous. It seems to me that there's probably going to be some type of. If my predictions of season two is that I think there's going to be a war between, of course, Piltover and the underworld, but I also think the place where Black Amidala's mom's from is also possibly going to start an armed conflict because
Yeah, that's
it seems like they want to get control of this hex tech, and I think they're going to try to take advantage of the strife between um, the underworld and Piltover, and I think in the next season she's going to swoop in and probably fight, mop up whoever's the weakest after the battle.
yeah, you definitely could be right. That's entirely possible.
That's what I feel that's going to happen because she seems like the wild card. She definitely really wants to get her hands on Hex Tech because she's fighting her own war in her own homeland. But I also feel that they're gonna wait for the underworld and Piltover to duke it out, and she's just gonna go through the ashes and take the hex tech for herself. That's what I think's gonna happen. Anyway.
That's entirely possible, yeah. I could see that happening.
Oh, hold on a second.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's entirely possible that that'll happen with the Hex Tech. It's definitely going to be the start of an arms race in season 2 because the Hex Tech is like a nuclear weapon with how powerful it is, with the harnessing and controlling of the magic through technology. And you can use it to, regrow limbs and shoot magic bolts out of weapons and have um, super powerful weapons and basically super strength and any kind of shit like that, which is really awesome.
Yes, Piltover, the city of progress.
Right.
Right. All right. So I guess we can. What are your last words concerning Arcane?
I think it's a really awesome show, and I'm glad that you recommended it. And everyone should watch it if you like awesome fantasy stories, and if you like animated shows or animes or anything like that. It's definitely awesome.
Right. So I'll say if you're looking for something aimed at an older audience, I know on the surface this might look like something that's for kids. I'd say it's good enough to to entertain adults. I'm pretty sure most of the reviews out there are done by people who are familiar with this type of content. We're talking about sci-fi fantasy. And I have not heard a negative word about this from most reviewers. Most reviewers love this show. Some of it, but I know a lot of them thought this was the best show of 2021. Um, I know our friend Tristram, who's not here, he thinks it's like the best fantasy show out there. This is like in comparison to, everything else like Game of Thrones, Wheel of Time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh
And
yeah,
I
I hadn't
think,
thought about that.
yeah, that's basically what Tristram said. He said this is the best fantasy show that you could stream. Um, I am inclined to think possibly, because there are some. I think there are some seasons of Game of Thrones that I would rather watch and I think are superior to this.
Yeah,
But
me
I do
too.
think that Arcane does have some definite potential going into season 3. It's hard for me to rate this in
Me too.
particular being better than anything else, is because this is still an ongoing show. It's not complete.
Yeah,
So I don't
definitely.
I don't really like to compare it to other shows that are finished and wrapped up, and we have to wait and see how this is going to end before I can kind of give that determination.
Yeah. Well, Game of Thrones definitely got better before it got worse at the end.
Yeah, that's true. Um, so yeah, I would say this is a must watch for any fantasy sci-fi fan. If you have not seen this yet, go watch. If you have Netflix, it's on there. It's a great show. It's 9 episodes at its current season,
And make sure you
and
don't share your password because Netflix is cracking down on that shit.
yeah, yeah. I have
I
not
really don't like
experienced
that.
that. I haven't. Yeah, I don't even know what it is to be like on the shared password end of things. Because I haven't. I don't even know what the specifics are on that. Because we have like 2 Rokus that connect to it. I have my tablet that connects to it. I have a phone. And this is all stuff within my own household. I know I have a
Hmm.
friend that has the password, but I don't know if he's been locked out of my account yet or not. He hasn't like said anything.
I
So
wonder if
who
it has
knows?
to be on your uh on your wireless used by any only people on your wireless plan or something like that.
I have no idea
I don't
how
know,
they're figuring it out. But
because
yeah, it's on Netflix. It's on Netflix. It's there to watch if you have the service. It's one of their exclusives. So if you have Netflix and you want to say exclusive, this is one to watch if you're a fantasy sci-fi fan. I highly recommend it.
yep, me
Story is
too.
great, awesome cliffhangers, high quality animation, voice work is great, characters are awesome, and the world that they built is great as well. And it's not a simple good versus evil story. It's pretty complex. It's like, man, the evil side isn't really all that evil, if you're asking me. It's just that, hey, they don't have a lot of resources and they got to do what they got to do. And you got like the rich people who have access to whatever resources they have, and at times they can be pretty assholish. I know we see that when the enforcers come to the underworld, they're not nice people. They're fucking around with people down there and their livelihood. So yeah, it's an interesting story. I do see that there are some parallels to modern society, definitely in this show when we're talking
Yeah.
about um, the poor versus the rich. This
Hmm.
is definitely a show that highlights class conflict.
Yep.
You know,
And power and nuclear weapons, basically, like we were talking about.
yes, like a nuclear weapon type of, I guess, like a substitute would be this hex technology. Especially towards the end, you do get to see how extremely powerful this stuff is.
I could
But yeah, if you're
totally
interested,
see how you could make a hex tech bomb that would be way more powerful than a nuclear bomb.
well, we can see kind of that we might get to see the result of that once the cliffhanger resolves itself in the next season.
Yeah.
um, then we did get to see kind of glimpses of what happens and how unstable this stuff can get, and it can explode and cause a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Um, so, yeah, if all this stuff sounds interesting to you, check out the show Arcane. And if you watch it, let us know how you think about it in the comments. I'm always grateful for receiving comments. So, did you want to do like a little bit of what you've been reading, slash whatever?
Sure. You start though, because I have to pee again first.
Sure,
Oh,
no problem, man.
sorry.
All right, what have I been reading? So I know one of the series that I've always adored, I've talked about, and I've given glowing reviews is the Belgariad. Um, and there were a couple books kind of in that series, like prequel books that I wanted to talk about or at least get to. I finally got to read. One of those books is called Belgarath the Sorcerer, which follows one of the main characters. So the interesting about Belgarath the Sorcerer, it's a prequel book, but I think it's a prequel book that spans like 7,000 years, which is pretty interesting, and it's 7,000 years from the perspective of a single character. Um, Belgarath the Sorcerer is a first person account of a character. And that's interesting because the other books weren't written first person. I believe they're written in third person. So it was a bit of a change when I was listening to this book. So I didn't read it, I was listening to this book. And I think Cameron Byerly, the narrator, he's just amazing. He does great character work. I think he's probably one of my top 10 favorite narrators in fiction, um, for sure. But I read that. I think I'm working on another Murderbot book right now as we speak. I'm working on the third Murderbot book, um, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, those are good. Whoa.
Yeah. Also, I finished a book called Mortal Engines.
Oh, that I
Um,
saw that one in the audiobook folder, but I haven't read it yet.
yeah, I got interested in Mortal Engines because I saw that Peter Jackson made a movie based off of this book.
Oh, I didn't know that he made it. I knew that the movie existed, but I didn't know that he had made it.
Yeah, it's a Peter Jackson movie. So I was like, let me check the source material out. It's definitely interesting and different. It has an interesting world that's not typical and I don't know if you can call it fantasy. It's more of a steampunk type of book more than anything. But I think it's interesting enough. It has such a unique world that it's worth checking out at least the first book, which I have. I thought that the world was interesting enough to check it out. I thought it was a pretty good book. It has some pretty interesting twists. I do eventually plan on trying to see the movie. It's just a matter of trying to find the movie on whatever streaming platform it might be on and just sitting down and watching it. I know in the movie Hugo Weaving is in it. That's basically the only actor I know that's in the Mortal Engines movie. But it does seem like it does cover that first book for the most part, from at least from the trailers that I've seen. Um,
So are you going to watch? You finished the book and are going to watch the movie?
yeah, I'm just need to find where to stream it.
Okay, that's
But yeah,
cool.
Mortal Engines, and I think it's in a trilogy, so I
Yeah, I was
plan
gonna
to
ask how
eventually.
many. I was gonna ask how many books there are because I thought that it was at least a trilogy.
I know there's at least a trilogy. I am unsure if there are more like standalones in that universe, but there is a trilogy for sure that I've looked into.
Cool.
I have not progressed with the Ranger's Apprentice. I got that on hold until I make more videos about it because I don't want to outpace that. Um, and yeah, I haven't read too much. I've been working on The Wheel of Time. I think I'm like at chapter 18-ish. So I should be done with this section within the next 2 weeks.
So
I
that'll
guess I'm
be
gonna,
the second third of it.
yeah, second, third. And I'll have to try to figure out the logistics to see how, if we can get Tristan in on it for this one.
Yeah.
And as far as like media, I've been watching a lot of Godzilla movies.
Oh, nice.
Godzilla movies, especially the old ones, um, they are extremely cheesy.
Yeah,
They are
definitely.
not.
I remember
How much
watching.
experience do you have with Godzilla movies, like the
I
older ones?
remember renting a bunch of them from our local video store when I was a kid. And yeah, a lot of them are really obviously just models and puppets.
Well, even the stories are like super cheesy, like the
Yeah,
plots.
yeah.
And a lot of them, it seems like the majority of the ones that I've seen. So I've basically seen every Godzilla movie that's been um, made between like 1954 and 1976.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's like maybe 10 movies. So,
Yeah,
um,
there are a lot of them, aren't there?
yeah, there's a shitload. But most of the plots are like super cheesy. It's like it's a lot of like aliens come to Earth and try to take control of the monsters, or a majority have to do with aliens. Like many of the stories and plots of these have to do with
I,
aliens.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah, it seems like for the first like 2 to 3 movies, like the first movie, Godzilla is definitely a bad guy. Second movie, he's still bad, and it's funny because once the aliens start becoming a plot line in most of these Godzilla movies, Godzilla ends up being the good guy because these aliens usually bring some type of monster of their own to Earth, and the people have to rely on Godzilla to fight this monster.
Like Monster or whatever that dragon's name is.
Well, whatever. There's so many different like monsters that the aliens bring. I know like one of them that they bring quite a bit is King Ghidorah, and it's like this three-headed flying dragon looking thing.
Right. That's why my favorite Godzilla movie is the second most recent one that came out before Godzilla versus Kong, which was Godzilla King of the Monsters, because he fights that massive three-headed alien dragon a few times. But it isn't
Yeah.
clear in the later movies they don't use that whole alien thing. They just have Godzilla, but sometimes Godzilla is bad and sometimes Godzilla is good also.
Right. I haven't seen the newer ones. I think what my goal was to try to watch all of these Godzilla movies sequentially in order. And there are some kaiju movies that don't have Godzilla in it at all. Like there's a Rodan movie that doesn't have Godzilla in it.
Who's Rodon?
Because Rodan is like this giant pterodactyl that Godzilla fought in one of
Oh,
his movies.
I think that one's actually in Godzilla King of the Monsters too, because it ends up being uh I think it ends up being Godzilla and Mothra versus that
Uh,
dragon and that giant bird or whatever. Yeah.
Is Angrius in any of those movies?
Which one's that?
It's like this. It's like one that has like a bunch of spikes on its back. Sometimes
Um,
it walks with four legs, I think, for most of the
I'm not
time.
sure. I don't remember.
He's like God. He's portrayed as Godzilla's friend in most of the movies,
Okay. I don't
like his
think
best buddy.
so, but I'm not
It's
sure.
Godzilla's best friend. But there are some very, very cheesy entries into the Godzilla movies. I think the most cheesy ones I've seen so far are Son of Godzilla and the one following Son of Godzilla, which focus on like this stupid looking baby Godzilla. Um, and I think one of them is like a kid's dream, and he goes to Monster Island,
I
and
remember
they
that one. I remember that one because that one was so terrible. It was like, what? This is all just like his dream fantasy of monsters fighting each other? That's
yeah.
stupid.
So you saw that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the worst one. That and Son of Godzilla is bad too. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of good ones though. There's like one of my favorites is when he fought um, Mechagodzilla, because Mechagodzilla, man, was kicking the hell out of Godzilla, just like
Hmm.
destroying. Um, and another good one is the one where he fights like this pollution monster. I forgot what it's called, Hibora or Hibira or something like that. Because that one was just like really destroying the planet. Like anybody that came in contact with it just got turned into like liquid, and their bones would just be left behind. Um, but yeah, I've been watching. I basically watch one Godzilla movie a week if possible. But some of the Godzilla movies, like another cheesy one, which I thought was entertaining, is Hibora, which is when Jet Jaguar comes out, which looks like Jet Jaguar is basically like an Ultraman ripoff. Um, I don't know if you've seen that one, but that one's like pretty cheesy.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah, it's just like who does he fight? So in that one he fights this monster that comes back. And I think he fights. Does he fight Mechagodzilla in that one? No, he doesn't. He fights. I think he fights Ghidorah, like Ghidorah again. Ghidorah like always randomly shows up. It seems like in a lot of these. Godzilla movies. But he also fights this other like cybernetic um thing that has like claws for hands and it has like a chainsaw on its belly or something. So it's like a really weird monster. It's like cybernetic. But yeah, lots of Godzilla I'm watching, and I've also watched like this anime Godzilla that has like 3 movies. It's on Netflix. I've watched the first 2, and it's actually really good. I would recommend it to any Godzilla fan. Um, but this one takes place like way, 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 way in the future. And in the future, Godzilla had completely taken over the planet Earth. And the humans had to flee Earth because Godzilla was just destroying everybody. And they come back to Earth like thousands of years later to reclaim it. And they come to defeat Godzilla. And in the first movie, they fight Godzilla, and in the second movie, there's like an even worse monster that shows up. So if you're into like Godzilla, I'd recommend checking out those Netflix movies. And I know there's also another Netflix anime series. It's like 12 or 13 episodes
Oh yeah, I haven't
about
seen
Godzilla.
that. I haven't seen that series, but I've seen 3 of those movies.
Oh, so you've seen the movies I'm talking about?
I've seen the most recent ones, yeah, the anime ones.
Okay, I haven't watched the third one yet, so I'm still working on finishing that third movie.
You know what?
But
One, I've got to go. I think I hear my mom yelling in her sleep.
okay, man.
I'll
Well,
be
we
right back.
could. Okay, no
Well, we could
problem.
end it here. We could end it here if you want, or I could come back and talk about what I've been reading. It's up to you.
Um. Well, yeah, I think we could end it here because it's like 6 a.m.
Okay.
over here, and I gotta
All right.
wrap stuff up in a couple hours here
All right.
so I
Well,
can get
always
out of
fun to
here.
talk, man.
All right, man. You take it easy. Just let me know when you want to do that chat on your next thing that you wanted to discuss. Was it? What
Yeah,
did you want to talk about next?
fat man.
Fat man. And you're good to go for tomorrow?
Um,
Maybe?
yeah, tomorrow should probably work, I think.
Okay.
I'll let you
So if we
know.
do it, yeah, if we're good to go for tomorrow, we're gonna have to do it at least earlier than today.
Okay.
Cause
Well, yeah, I'll let you know either way.
all right, cool, man. All right. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Check Andrew's channel out, Mindgasms. That's his YouTube channel. I would say if you want to check out his fantasy content, one of the most recent things that he covered was the Lord of the Rings TV series with and he did it with Daniele Vallely. They definitely talked about it, and they had some pretty interesting and good criticisms about the show. But if you like Angeli or Daniele Bolelli, um, I know you've done a couple different fantasy shows with him regarding
Yeah.
Conan and some others. But yeah, check out
Yep.
his, and they have a pretty interesting conversation about the Lord of the Rings.
Thanks, man.
All right, well, thank you guys, everybody, for watching. Please like and subscribe and comment. I love to hear your comments, and I'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Bye for now. See ya, man.